travels these days are to cover trials of people who were charged with criminal offenses in February 2022 during the trucker convoy, even though the Emergencies Act was already ruled by the federal court to be illegal and unconstitutional. Well, that hasn't stopped literally hundreds of cases from proceeding to court, including big, spectacular cases like our friend Tamara Leach on trial in Ottawa still, or the various cases in Coutts, Alberta, where there was an echo blockade between the Alberta and Montana borders. Well, here is an interesting case about a man who was charged, arrested on February 19th, 2022, so right at the apex of the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. But he was roughed up, illegally searched, and basically a case of police misconduct the whole way down. Trouble is, who has the funds to fight back? As you know, the Democracy Fund has crowdfunded for many people, including the aforementioned Tamara Leach and the Coutts defendants, the Coutts 3 and actually 55 other truckers. But the granddaddy of civil liberties law firms in Canada are our dear friends at the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms. And they've been at this game for more than 10 years, defending people, including during the trucker convoy. And I am delighted to welcome on the show Monick Grenier, the lawyer for Ben Spicer, who joins us now via Skype from Ottawa. Monick, nice to meet you.
You too. Nice to meet you.
Tell me a little bit more about Ben Spicer. It sounds like he went there, as did thousands of other Canadians, to sort of experience the moment. There were some people there protesting, but there were many others who just wanted to be there, sort of like Woodstock for freedom. Tell me more about Ben Spicer. Was he more an activist or an observer?
Well, you raised some very good points there. In fact, there was a YouTube video from February 19th, 2022, from the location of Mr. Spicer's arrest that was actually put into evidence by the defense as an exhibit because it showed the atmosphere. And the atmosphere was, I would say, very jovial. There were a lot of people milling about, some protesters, some observers, dogs, children, police. So Mr. Spicer was in attendance and was arrested at that day. It was about 7:20 p.m. on the Saturday night, the last Saturday of the protest after the police came in.
His arrest was one thing, but then they spied on him. They sort of eavesdropped on him. And the thing is, when you're arrested, you got to be quiet. I mean, people want to talk. They're stressed out. They want to maybe talk their way out of a pickle. But tell me a little bit about, well, I mean, first tell me a little bit about the search of his person. They didn't have a search warrant. Yeah, go ahead and tell me about the search, and then tell me about their secret spying on him, because this is bad behavior by the government.
So I can tell you from the evidence at trial that Mr. Spicer was arrested unlawfully because it was found there was no grounds for arrest. After the arrest, his person was searched, incidental to arrest, because he was found to have been unlawfully arrested, that there were no grounds for arrest. The search was also unlawful. But most interesting, and the point you raised, was the paddy wagon audio and video that the Crown sought to rely upon to try to ask the court to infer criminal intent or criminal activity. So why it was found to be a breach of a Section 8 charter right was because there was no signage that he was being audio video recorded. There was no explanation, no warning given to him. So due to that, he did have an expectation of privacy. It was found to be a reasonable expectation of privacy. The Crown argued that while in police custody, you don't have a right to privacy, that you're in custody, right? Now, the court found, based on several cases we were able to present, that you do, in fact, maintain a reasonable expectation of privacy in custody, even in a police vehicle, a paddy wagon, such as is in this case, but it does depend on the facts. So if there had been a sign, for example, or if it had been clear that Mr. Spicer was aware that he was being audio and video recorded, that would have changed the facts. But he was unaware, and he was having a conversation with a protester, provided some personal information about his opinion about the convoy, for example. So he had an interest in the subject matter. And based on the circumstances, the judge agreed with the defense that this was a breach of his Section 8 right. they could not have had that recording without a warrant unless there was some exigent circumstances, which there were not. So the judge actually agreed with all of our charter breaches that we advanced, section 8, 9, and 10B, right to instruct and retain counsel.
Well, I'm really glad. And, that's an argument that a person would likely not be able to make on their own. That's a fairly sophisticated argument. You have to understand the Charter of Rights. I don't know if you have to give notice that you're challenging things. I don't know how the criminal procedure went where you are, but I guess what I'm saying is the fact that I don't know, I imagine a layperson certainly doesn't know. And
absolutely.
And if they didn't have the help of the Justice Center, this guy would have been devoured by the wolves.
I absolutely agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. I really am so appreciative, and it was such a privilege to be able to have this opportunity to defend Mr. Spicer through the Justice Center's funding. I was actually in the beginning I had 22 clients was my count that the Justice Center was willing to defend and fund. So they've done a really good job doing that. No, you couldn't, in my opinion, make this argument on your own as a layperson. You may be eaten by the wolves, if that's the right terminology. You may advance arguments that are completely irrelevant. For example, you said in the beginning that even though the Emergencies Act was declared improperly invoked, it really doesn't matter because these are criminal charges, right? And criminal charges are based on, the grounds for arrest. Did the person commit mischief, for example? It makes no difference whether there is an Emergencies Act invoked or not. I guess that was the reason for going in. However, I would also note that the Emergencies Act did have an exception for lawful, peaceful protest. Right.